Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's a new president of the United States and a new vice president of the United States. We've gone through a lot to get there, but you know what? We have a new president. The inaugural is something that I want to talk about, and I want to speak to someone who has a lot of experience in the areas that were covered today. And that is my good friend. I could read off her resume, but quite frankly, the show would be over. She's played many different roles in government, many different roles in the private sector, and has a base, a foundation here in the great state of North Dakota as well. And that's Lori Bader. Lori, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Hi, thanks, Joel. Good to be here.
All right, I want grades. How did you think that the inaugural went?
I think A+. I think it did a whole bunch of things he needed to do. He needed to demonstrate leadership on COVID. It was spare and respectful in that way. He needed to tell the nation that he would be a president for everybody and that it was okay to disagree as long as we don't disagree with violence and that we keep our union together. And he did it authentically. He did it as Joe Biden, a guy who doesn't say, my fellow Americans, a guy who says, folks, he was authentically himself, and bringing that Lincoln quote in about putting his whole soul into it. I don't know about you, but I was terrifically moved by that. I tell you, I've been moved at every single inaugural I've seen, whether it's, something about it is so beautiful. And this one had the chance to be a healing moment. And I think he did that, and he did it beautifully.
Well, in the peaceful transfer of power, I don't know that we can say that this time. In my lifetime, this is the first time. No, we really can't. And I think that he needed to show that in the eyes of the individuals up on that stage, that there is a peaceful transfer of power. And that really shone through for me, Lori.
Yeah, it was challenged. It was challenged violently, and blood was spilled for the first time. The threat came from within our country, a threat to the peaceful transition of power. But we restored it. We brought back faith in our democracy, and we need to build from here.
You know, you mentioned he said this. He spoke as he is, Lunchbox Joe, the man that got on the train and could visit with anyone. Both you and I have met him, and he doesn't hide. He's exactly what you see. He's exactly what you saw today. And so you're spot on right about how he delivered this speech and how it was written. But, to become president during a pandemic, to become president during one of the most controversial times in terms of what your opposition has said and done. And, now the job's his. I mean, now the job is his. What does he do with it, Lori?
Well, I'll tell you something. It's a mess. He got handed a raft of challenges, and he said it in his speech. Any one of them would be enough to occupy an entire presidency. But we have the coronavirus, we have global climate change, we have a faltering economy, and I was interested to hear him make a commitment to the truth, which I think is the first thing he needs to restore here. I think that people need to know that the words of their president are the truth. And he made that promise today, and that was also, I think, deeply moving and something he needed to do.
You know, as a fellow Catholic, I have to tell you this. I'm a man of faith, but I don't tell people what their faith has to be or if they have to have faith. It seems to me that that's what America is all about. But there was a real touch of spirituality in this. There was a real essence and a view from a Catholic of exactly how we grew up.
Well, you can't lead people only with your mind. You have to lead with your heart. And that spirituality is what spoke from his heart today. And I think people recognized it as genuine. How could you not? And I mean, the rest of it, that young poet was just inspiring. And, Garth Brooks took off his hat, Joel. What greater sign of mutual respect could there be?
So I'm sitting in the room, and you have this image of everybody's music, right? And I was still on the air on radio when J-Lo sang, and when when we're sitting there with Lady Gaga singing, and I'm like jealous I'm like, oh, I just want to shut this radio off and watch. But the truth of the matter is, I got to see Garth come down those steps, take off his hat, show the respect he would for anyone, I might add, in that office.
Absolutely.
But in that room I was telling you about, with the guys, Garth Brooks, tough guy, cowboy, there wasn't a dry eye in that room, Laurie. I mean,
No.
he nailed it. He really did.
Yeah, what people are hungry for right now is unity, to know that we're one nation, that we can agree to disagree, but it doesn't have to split us in half, and it doesn't have to make us hate each other. And I think that was the spirit you saw on display today, and it was exactly what we needed to see.
And to have a Republican senator at this time that we're so divided, say that the first thing he thought of after Amazing Grace was Barack Obama singing it.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a real classy and nice touch.
It was nice. It was. And the whole spirit of today was bringing us together. And so importantly, mutual respect, which I think is what we've been lacking for a long time.
So in the sense that we recognize respect and we appreciate it in a bipartisan fashion, I have to bring up the fact that there wasn't a respect from others. There wasn't a peaceful or decent way of transferring this power. The president didn't attend. President Trump didn't attend. What's your take on that?
I think, he was on brand. I think to some extent he has seen this whole presidency as an extension of his brand. And he's someone who never admits defeat, even in the face of absolute incontrovertible proof that he has been defeated. And it made me sad that it's been a tradition for so long to show respect to the person who follows you in that office, and it was not in him, and that's a terrible thing.
One of the first things that I did this morning was started looking through, the letters, the notes that presidents had let for their successor, and it was interesting because one of the ones, and I know you know this because you're a writer by your very soul, one of the ones that jumped out at me as being the best was George H.W. Bush's, note that he left Bill Clinton, and it's short, so I'm going to share it here. Dear Bill, I was walking into this office just now, and I felt the same sense of wonder and respect that I felt 4 years ago. I know you will feel that too. I wish you great happiness here. I never felt the loneliness some presidents have described. There will be some tough times, made even more difficult by criticism you may not think is fair. I'm not a very good one to give advice, but just don't let the critics discourage you or push you off course. And here's where it really touched me, Laurie. You will be our president when you read this note. I wish you well. I wish your family well. Your success now is our country's success. I'm rooting hard for you. Good luck, George. This was a man that was beaten by Bill Clinton in the election. Why can't we be that country under the Trump presidency? And will that change now, Laurie?
I hope so. I hope it will change. And so much of this is leadership. You think of the number of people who have been called on to write that note, it's a tiny handful of people, and they've all risen to the occasion. I don't think there will be a note this time. But we can get past it because there are other people like George Bush, and there are other people like Barack Obama who treasure the office and who are frankly ennobled by it. We all have feet of clay, but you'd like to think that if someone is called to high office, he understands, or she someday maybe, understands the burden that is, and that they're responsible for the whole of a great nation. And I just hope we can restore that in the coming weeks, months, and years.
Laurie, you have been an advocate for women succeeding in this country for a long time. You've stuck your neck out, you've stuck your pin out. You basically have been there every step of the way, and you've proven that you can back it up with your actions. There isn't a job that you've had that you didn't succeed at. That being said, you just saw a woman become the next, or not the next, you just saw a woman become the vice president of the United States. And so if you take a look at it in the line of succession, you've got a president that's a man, then you've got a woman that's vice president, and a woman that is the Speaker of the House. So I'm going to ask you, as a woman, what does this mean to you?
I knew it was coming. I was expecting it, and I still got chills. I got chills because it was such a moment in history, not just for me, for everybody. And I think that, maybe it's time. I like to say, well, we got a black man as president before we got a woman of any flavor. But, I think it's time. And women are still, across the world, women are still in pretty bad shape, but not here. And I think it's time. I could not have been more thrilled.
Well, and you're part of my family. You've known that. Well, you have been, whether you like it or not. Lori got married in my front yard, just so you know. But Lori, when I got up this morning, I felt like a kid on Christmas morning. I really did. Obviously, my politics are the same politics as Joe Biden. Middle of the road Democrat, infrastructure Democrat, all of those type of things. But when I woke up this morning, my wife was waiting for me. And she made sure I wore this, I don't know if you call it a bracelet or what. All I know is it's really tight on my wrist. But the pearl bracelet. So to say that this hasn't affected a lot of people, Lori, I mean, it obviously has.
I think many people, even I didn't know the size of the weight that was on my shoulders. And some of that lifted today. It really, really did. I felt something lift from my shoulders, and I have hope. Yeah.
Well, Lori, I do too. I do too. We're going to have many more of these conversations because neither one of us are afraid to grade. Like you started this segment. And not everything Joe Biden's about to do, I agree with. And not everything Joe Biden's about to do, you agree with. But the one thing I do know is he's going to do it from the heart. And he's going to do it with the decency of America in mind. So, Lori, it's always fun talking to you. We'll do this again someday, okay?
It's my pleasure. Take care. I wish I was out there in North Dakota with all of you.
40-some degrees in North Dakota right now, just so you know.
I don't care. I wish I were with you all.
Exactly. When we come back, we're going to get a chance to visit with someone that truly understands what a lot of this is about. We're going to get a chance to visit with someone that really understands the history of it, and we're going to get a chance to visit with that individual. He's Tim Kalks. There you go. I think I got it right that time. Professor at Northwestern University Kellogg School of Management. So stick around. More coming your way.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather, like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Are you a thrill seeker, sightseer, or day tripper? The Ford Bronco Sport SUV is built for you. Four Bears Casino is giving away a 2021 Ford Bronco Sport loaded with a ton of interior space, safari-style roof, smooth suspension for any terrain, and easy-to-clean surfaces. Qualify now just by playing your favorite slots at Four Bears Casino. Double points on Sundays. Also get in on Super Senior Wednesdays, slot turning Thursdays, and hot seats on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Spin into Four Bears Casino and Lodge for chances to win.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Heroes and Icons is now Cozy TV. Don't worry, you'll still get your favorite Beck News programming without changing the channel. Real people, real news, Beck News.
It's good to have you still going down the road with us. Professor, Northwestern University's Kellogg School of Management, Tim Calkins joins us right now. Professor, good to have you coming down the road.
Oh, well, thank you. It is great to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
You're involved in education, so I've been doing this. Grade it. Grade the inaugurals. Grade what you just saw or just heard.
I think the inaugural accomplished what Joe Biden was hoping to accomplish. I think his goal and the new team was to be understated, to be all about unity, to be hopeful, and I think that came across. I think that was very much the message. It wasn't a super flashy event today. There were no big crowds. There were no massive fireworks, none of that. But it was successful, I think, at really projecting the idea of unity and people coming together.
My previous guest talked about how it really presented Joe Biden the way Joe Biden is, as Lunchbox Joe. Not too many big words. That's not the goal. The goal is to make sure you convey a message that, as you pointed, unifies this country. And so I'm curious what you think about that divide. Because, you know, I was sitting here earlier looking at the notes that the president that was coming out of the White House was leaving the president that came into the White House. And some of these are just so personal. You can tell that the president didn't ask a speechwriter, didn't ask for ideas. He just wrote from the heart. And I think we've got a president, or an ex-president now, and President Trump, that probably didn't leave a note. And so to be that divided at this inauguration, I'm curious what your take on that is.
Well, I think it's going to be hard for Joe Biden to pull people together. You know, we're in such a polarized country. And what really is amazing now is how what we read and what we see in our lives is so different. I think, you know, you go back 20 years ago, and I think we would all watch the same nightly news broadcast, and we would read the same newspaper, and there was at least some common things. Now, I think the hard part in our country is that what everybody is seeing is very, very different. And what you're seeing when you get on the internet and start surfing around is so different than what I'm seeing, and that's so different from what somebody down the street is seeing, that I think that's going to make it a challenge to pull people together. You know, I hope, though. I'm very hopeful. You know, I was impressed with Garth Brooks today. I thought he did a nice job. And when he had everything, we're all going to sing together. And I thought that was a really nice moment. And it's hopeful. You really do hope that we can find some common ground.
I'm in a room with 4 Midwestern guys, you know, and 2 ladies. And Garth Brooks gets up there, comes down, takes off his hat, and quite frankly does exactly what you just said he did. He nails it. And I'm looking around at those guys to make sure that I'm not the only one. And everyone's, nobody had dry eyes, Professor. To say that was a magical moment, I think you're spot on. I think Garth Brooks did nail it.
And I don't know exactly why. You know, it's interesting. That was a moment, though. And I don't know why that touched the nerve. But it seemed like that really touched a nerve today.
I think
in a very good way.
I think it was just something that the message today had spirituality in it. It had faith in it. And I think it was a good tie-in to the rest of the country, because if we're going to do what you said, prayer isn't a bad way to get it started, or at least for me it wasn't. I want to talk about being an ex-president. Where do you see Donald Trump going? What do you see him doing?
Well, it's one of the great questions now, is what's going to happen with Donald Trump. Now, most former presidents, they sort of fade away. You know, as former president, you get lots of, you know, perks, and you can have a very nice life as a former president, and they pursue their activities, and most of them have done that. I mean, they get out of office and you just don't hear that much from them. who was it? Obama, I think, went down to the Caribbean for a while and hung out, did some windsurfing or whatever, and Jimmy Carter went back, and the question is, are we going to see that again with Donald Trump? I don't think so. I just don't think that's what we're going to see. Donald Trump has been an unusual president. He was an unusual candidate. He's been unusual as a president, and I think he will be an unusual former president. I think we're going to see much more from him, and we're going to hear much more from him than we've heard from any of the former presidents that we can currently look back on.
Well, I want to bring up a couple points in reference to what you just said. Number one, he's already talking about forming his own party, the Patriot Party, which makes me instantly go to nobody's been more loyal to you throughout all this, even if they were shaking their head behind the scenes, than the Republican Party. And so to basically put that wedge in the Republican Party that really could end any chance they have at winning in a very closely divided country, that really put up a red flag for me. The other thing is loyalty. You're talking about what happens after the presidency. I don't know if it was a jackrabbit, if it was a Greyhound, or if it was a school bus. But what I absolutely know is Mike Pence got thrown under a bus. And for all that loyalty, I don't know where it got him. And so as an ex-president, it would seem to me it's going to be tougher to have people align with President Trump.
Well, he does have a whole series of challenges. Certainly the Republican Party, I think, is going to struggle with this. But he also has other challenges. I think his brand has become really, really polarized. He's always been polarizing. But over the past 2 weeks, he's become even more polarizing. And now what we're seeing is that people are beginning to distance themselves. And that's true whether it's companies or whether it is some other politicians. But for the first time, we're seeing some people sort of say, boy, it's too much. It's too toxic right now to align with Trump. And I think that's going to be a challenge for him. He also has a basic problem with social media. He's got to find a way to get access back to social media to be able to be part of the conversation. So I think that's got to be, a huge priority for him to go back and say, how does he reactivate all those accounts that he's had? Because he wants to get the word out. If you want to build, whether you're building a new party or whether you want to get back to business, whatever, he needs to have a voice. And right in the world we live today, the voice is so much driven by social media. That's going to be a big priority for him.
I know we only have a couple of minutes left, but I'm going to give you a scenario. You got your last $5 in your pocket. That's the last $5 you got. You got to turn it into $10. Do you think Donald Trump gets convicted in the Senate if you had to bet?
No, I don't think so. And I don't think so for two reasons. One, I think the Biden administration, I don't think has a lot of interest in pursuing that. I think they want to move on. I think their goal is to spend as little time thinking about the former administration as they can, and they just want to move forward. The other piece is I think the Republicans are very nervous about it. There's a huge number of people who support the former president now, and I think the Republicans do not want to wade into that schism in their party. And so I think there's a lot of incentive for everybody just to let that go. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that fade away. So I'm going to vote. I'm going to bet against that.
Yeah, I think
I could be wrong. I could be wrong though.
I think you're going to turn it into $10. The only thing that tells me that you might have put it at risk at all is the fact that when you start talking about forming your own party, the people from the party you're going to be taking from might say, "Look, this is one way of making sure that he never can run again. One more vote after this with a simple majority." After we convict him of impeachment. So, Professor, thank you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you so much. This was really fun to do.
I had fun, too, I got to tell you. When we come back, Shannon Roars-Jones joins us. Shannon is a state representative out of Fargo, North Dakota. She's got some interesting legislation out there, not the least of which is the fact that your mugshot should not be released to the public because you know what? You haven't been convicted yet. We're going to visit with Ms. Roars-Jones right after this as we go down the road.
What a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
The professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Years in the North Dakota State Senate taught me a lot. Number one, it taught me the courage that some legislators have to bring a bill forth that might not pass, might pass, but either way it makes your mind work. And in one particular case that we're about to talk about, I don't think she could be more spot on. I'm going to bring in State Representative Shannon Roars-Jones from South Fargo. Representative Roars-Jones, and some point during all this, I'm going to end up calling you Shannon, so I'm sorry about that. But
no, go start out with it. Just get it off the table. Shannon is just fine.
Good to have you coming down the road with us. I want to talk a little bit about 3 pieces of legislation, not the least of which is a bill that you have that says mugshots that the government has taken in the capacity that a county can or a state can, that those mugshots should not be made public because the individual isn't convicted yet. Explain that bill to people.
I mean, it's really straightforward. The bill just says that a booking photograph taken at the time of arrest is a confidential record until such time a person is convicted, unless there's a compelling public safety interest that requires that record to be divulged to the public. It also says that law enforcement at any time can share those records amongst themselves, for their investigations or purposes like that. But it's not something that needs to be provided to the media, provided on law enforcement Facebook pages, etc., until such time that a person has been convicted of the crime for which they're arrested or some lesser included charge. If they plead down to something that's related to the arrest, that would still be included.
So let me give you a scenario. You've got an insurrection was attempted at our Capitol. There was an attempted coup. You've got individuals that are being sought now as individuals of interest, and they're not much of interest because you can see they were guilty, but they haven't been convicted yet. And law enforcement is releasing those photos saying, hey, can you help us find these folks? How would they, in terms of your piece of legislation, what effect would that have on them?
That would have no effect because that's not a booking photo. A booking photograph is taken at the time a person is arrested. So at this point, they already have that person in custody. There's nothing about the law that would prevent someone from using surveillance photos or photos taken by the media, other members of the public, to help identify a person of interest.
Well, let me give my bias. You're not guilty. You're not guilty. And it isn't like anybody's saying, here, can you have some makeup or a hairbrush or anything like that. Some of those booking photos can be absolutely brutal photos that no one would want released of themselves. And so if you're not guilty, I don't see why they would be made public. Is this starting to resonate with other legislators? I mean, you get a sense. You walk the hallways. I mean, what are you hearing from your colleagues?
You know, from most of my colleagues with whom I've had this conversation, they get it. It makes sense, especially when you talk through the different scenarios. Well, what if this? What if that? You know, what if the police need to find this person who is wanted for a crime and they can't, you know, and they have a photograph of someone, a prior booking photo. Well, if they have a prior booking photo, that would be available if they were previously convicted. They could use that booking photo. Well, what if they're trying to identify a person of interest from surveillance photo, like what you just said? That would be available. They could use that because that's not a booking photo. The issue is these mug shots where you're standing in front of the wall. It's got the hash marks with your height behind you that get put up, are primarily being used to create a media splash for the story that is being promoted. It's after the person has been arrested, so they're not a public safety concern anymore. It's prior to them being convicted, so they haven't actually been found guilty of the crime which they've been arrested for. And so it's just really to try and promote the story. The other part that goes along with this is the fact that we now have these online mugshot websites that will follow all of the law enforcement institutions across the country and pull people's law enforcement, their booking photos off of the web pages and upload them with whatever they were charged for at that time. And then if the charges are dropped, if the charges are amended, those websites are not updated. And so if someone who was arrested for theft, say, wants to go and ask for their picture to be removed because they were never convicted or the charges were dropped, or if you know, if there was something about the photo that was inaccurate, maybe they were eventually convicted of a lesser offense, they pled down to something, to get those photographs off the site or updated. A lot of times those websites will charge someone to have their information updated or removed. And so it's an ongoing process that affects people's ability to find jobs in the future, to just have their record that's on the internet clearly accurate. And it's one of those things that we're trying to avoid putting that information out there before the conviction occurs, because that's one of those bells you just can't unring.
So what does law enforcement think of it?
You know, I think law enforcement has a little concern with it. I have not had any of them express their concerns specifically to me, except prior to drafting the bill, I ran through a number of different scenarios with one of my colleagues who was in law enforcement. And his only concern with the bill was that it could cause some additional costs if the law enforcement has to change their computer systems. But when I said, well, what about, you know, public safety? What about ability to, you know, to do your work? What about ability to enforce the laws? He didn't have any concerns related to those things, the over-hierarching concerns. But I am hearing that law enforcement is not pleased with this bill, but I have not heard that from them directly to me.
Okay. I want to talk about another bill, your bill on bail reform, eliminating cash bail. Talk to me about this. What does the bill do?
Basically, it says for low-level offenses, and right now we have it listed as misdemeanors, infractions, and felonies that would not involve a crime of violence, sex offense, those sorts of things, domestic violence. If you are arrested and brought to the jail, you would be booked in. Obviously, you probably have that booking photo taken. And then rather than waiting in jail until that time that you can post bond, and then having to come up with that money to be released, that you would be released on your own recognizance if it was one of those low-level offenses and you were a citizen of the state of North Dakota. So, they have information for finding you, you're local, they can bring you back. You're making a promise to come back for trial, and then you would go back and you would have the ability to work and live your life until you have to face the charges that are in front of you for that arrest.
So what motivated this? I mean, this particular bill, was it a constituent that came to you? Was this a sense of fairness? Did you know somebody that sat in jail from Friday till Monday because they couldn't get in front of the right people to get out of jail? I mean, something drove this bill.
It wasn't one specific story. It's, I would say, a combination of several things. Over the last couple of sessions, we have learned a lot about criminal justice reform efforts across the country, and a lot of the research-based things that are coming forward as far as how one single impact and one single night in jail can have this just terrible effect that changes the trajectory of a person's life. And so a lot of my bills have similar themes in how can we do this in a way that's going to accomplish the public safety goals that we need to accomplish, but also make sure that we're not creating a harsher impact for someone who has no financial resources versus someone who has financial resources, and causing a kind of a downward spiral that will affect not only the person who makes a poor choice with regard to the law, but also their family members and those sorts of things who rely on them for support.
In the 30 seconds that I have left, I mean, you're sitting there trying to legislate during a pandemic, and you and I both know, having served in those chambers, that some of the best information you get is in closeness to a lot of people. Being a lobbyist isn't always the dirtiest word that you can possibly be. So how is it going? I mean, how is this going, this process, during a pandemic?
You know, I would say it's going really well, all things considered. You know, we are here, most of the legislators are in the Capitol every day. We've got our masks on, and we have the opportunity to have temperature checks every day when we come in. We've got the quick COVID test 3 times a week, and so that's good. We're wearing our masks when we're in close proximity on the floor and in committees. You know, we have had, I think, 1 or a couple of positive tests, and those people isolated themselves as quickly as they were able to. The online testimony has been really fantastic, and I think we're fortunate in this instance because it was something that some people had been pushing for and some had been pushing against for many years, is how can we make it easier for the citizens of the state of North Dakota to testify without having to drive across the state for 5 to 15 minutes of talking time. So that has been really great, and it's really pushed us to modernize the electronic systems, and we got some feedback on how many people are watching our committee. These last 2 weeks in the Judiciary Committee, we've had 1,500 people watching. And so I think it really opens up the process to the citizens of the state of North Dakota. It creates a safe environment for us. And going back to lobbyists, it's challenging. We don't have as many people in the Capitol who are here that we can have conversations with. We just have to get creative with Zooms and other means of communicating with people to share information.
Representative Roars Jones, this is a great vehicle as well. We'll use it again. Thanks for coming on with us.
Thank you for your time.
When we come back, we're going to talk about the inaugural. Let's go into our Newsmaker segment and get a chance to get your take and my take on what we all saw and heard today, right here as we go down the road.
Howdy folks, it's the County Line Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous County Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Yeah. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the game. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering is the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a new president and vice president of the United States of America. What does that mean? Well, it means the Trump era is over, at least for now. We'll see where that goes in the future, and certainly he's going to still play a major role in national politics as long as he's provided back that conduit of social media. But there'll still be microphones placed in front of his face, and he'll still find a way to weigh in. There's no doubt about that. But we do have a new president and vice president of the United States of America. There are certain traditions, when I look at them, that really tell me a lot about my country. They do, and they're great traditions. They really are. Keep in mind that George H.W. Bush served as vice president for Ronald Reagan. Now we're going to go backwards, and then we're going to go forwards. And I'm going to use my cheaters, but I can't figure out why we call them cheaters when, in fact, you need them. So you're not cheating. It's just what they are. But let's go to the letter that was left to George H.W. Bush. You know, they set him in the desk. They say this is one president to the other. You know, congratulations on the job. But here's what Ronald Reagan wrote George H.W. Bush. He said, George, dear George, if you have, you'll have moments when you want to use this particular stationery. Well, go to it. George, I treasure the memories we shared and wish you all the best. You'll be in my prayers. God bless you and Barbara. I'll miss our Thursday lunches. It's personal, right? That's two friends talking to each other, and it's something that I will absolutely guarantee you didn't get thrown away. And it's probably in a presidential library. Let me give you what I think is the best example of bipartisanship. The example I just spoke to is one Republican handing the ball off to another Republican. But here's an example of what happens when you have a Republican handing a ball off to the Democrat, especially when you've got the Democrat that beat the Republican. That's exactly what happened with George H.W. Bush to Bill Clinton, who I might add, they became good friends after both of them were out of the White House. His reads, "Dear Bill, when I walked into this office just now, I felt the same sense of wonder and respect that I felt 4 years ago. I know you will feel that too. I wish you great happiness here. I never felt the loneliness some presidents have described. There will be very tough times, made even more difficult by criticism you may not think is fair. I'm not a very good one to give advice, but don't let the critics discourage you or push you off course. You will be our president when you read this note. I wish you well. I wish your family well. Your success now is our country's success. I'm rooting hard for you. Good luck, George." It gives you goosebumps, or at least it does me. It shows you what a good and decent man George H.W. Bush was and is, or was, I should say. We've lost him. But it shows you what a good and decent man that George H.W. Bush was. It also tells me one thing: country first, country above party, country first. And that's what George H.W. Bush showed in that letter. We can go on, and we will go on a little bit, but, you know, this tradition is so good. It's so, let me give you another one. Bill Clinton to George W. Bush. So now you've got the ball being handed off from a Democrat to a Republican. Again, he said, "Dear George, today you embark on the greatest venture with the greatest honor that can come to an American citizen. Like me, you are especially fortunate to lead our country in a time of profound and largely positive change. When old questions, not just about the role of government, but what about the very nature of our nation, must be answered anew. You lead a proud, decent, good people, and from this day you are president of all of us. I salute you and wish you success and much happiness. The burdens you now shoulder are great but often exaggerated. The sheer joy of doing what you believe is right is inexpressible. My prayers are with you and your family. Godspeed." What does that tell you? What does that tell you? And again, these two individuals became friends after being president. What it tells me again is how rich this tradition is, and how this tradition is something that, quite frankly, needs to continue. Let me go to George W. Bush's to President Obama. "Dear Barack, congratulations on becoming our president. You have just begun a fantastic chapter in your life. Very few have had the honor of knowing the responsibility you now feel. Very few know the excitement of the moment and the challenges you will face. There will be trying times. The critics will rage. Your friends will disappoint you. But you will have an almighty God to comfort you, a family who loves you, and a country that is pulling for you, including me. No matter what comes, you will be inspired by the character and compassion of the people you now lead. God bless you. Sincerely, GW." Again, these two men became fast friends after the presidency. Okay, one more. A little bit longer, as was his nature, Barack Obama to Donald Trump. "Dear Mr. President, congratulations on a remarkable run. Millions have placed their hopes in you, and all of us, regardless of your party, should hope for expanded prosperity and security during your tenure. This is a unique office without a clear blueprint for success, so I don't know that any advice for me will be particularly helpful. Still, let me offer a few reflections from the past 8 years. First, we've both been blessed in different ways with great fortune. Not everyone is so lucky. It's up to us to do everything we can to build more ladders of success for every child and family that's willing to work hard. Second, American leadership in this world really is indispensable. It's up to us through action and example to sustain the international order that's expanded steadily since the end of the Cold War, and upon which our own wealth and safety depend. Third, we are just temporary occupants of this office. That makes us guardians of those democratic institutions and traditions like rule of law, separation of power, equal protection, and civil liberties that our forebears fought and bled for. Regardless of the push and pull of daily politics, it's up to us to leave those instruments of our democracy at least as strong as we found them. And finally, take in the rush of events and responsibilities for friends and family. They'll get you through the inevitable rough patches. Michelle and I wish you and Melania the very best as you embark on this great adventure, and know that we stand ready to help in any ways which we can. Good luck and Godspeed. That, ladies and gentlemen, is classy. That is classy. That is sheer class, because the man he beat is the man that's president of the United States today. The man that Donald Trump beat is Joe Biden, the former president, Barack Obama's vice president. Keep that in mind. I don't know whether or not Donald Trump left a note, a message to Joe Biden. I know what my gut tells me. I know that the word class might not be used here, but I do know this. I know that Joe Biden will take those previous words, which I just read, and use them. When we come back, some closing comments for you as we go down the road.
Howdy folks, it's the County Line Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous County Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spur rattling pie with a cum roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county.
Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef in all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
The professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Kohler Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best-built, best-backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Joe Biden won the election free and fair. He won it. There are some people out there that are watching this right now that still don't believe he did. They're wrong. They're wrong. In fact, the individuals that are saying this and spreading this are not telling the truth. And some of the individuals that could put out those thoughts, that fire, are not using the power they can. Kevin Cramer, John Hoeven, go about pointing out this was a free and fair election, and I'll tell you what, the nation will take a lot of steps towards healing. But Joe Biden put his right hand to God today, and he swore an oath. He did. He swore an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. That's what's the most important thing. That's what matters. Today, if you listen to his speech, he didn't say he's a Democrat. He didn't say he's a Republican. What he said was he, as president, is going to be president for all the people of the United States of America. I liked it. Now, there are things that we're going to disagree on. There are things that you're going to disagree with him on. I'm broadcasting to a very red state. I get that. But he is your president. And I think you have to honor that. I think you have to respect that. Now, for me, I don't like his decision to pull permits when it comes to the Keystone XL project. Don't like it at all. That being said, that's one thing I disagree with. There are others I agree with. Getting the vaccine out as quickly as you possibly can. Infrastructure. Bringing our country together. Basically treating people with the respect they deserve to be treated with. Those are things that you can't buy. And those are things that he can replace. Because we haven't had those. We have not had those for the last 4 years. We're about to find out. We're about to embark on this new journey. I think we're all going to like it in the end. Good riding with you, folks.